To appear before you today to account for the progress made by the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture between January and June 2025 and to share the outlook for the remainder of the year. Ghana's fisheries and aquaculture sector is a vital lifeline for our nation. It sustains livelihoods, ensures food and nutritional security, creates employment opportunities, and preserves the cultural heritage of our coastal and inland communities. It supplies over 60% of the country's animal protein needs and provides employment and income to more than 2.7 million people across the value chain. Beyond its social impact, it remains a vital pillar of Ghana's economy. The sector is a major economic contributor, accounting for 16.4% of agriculture's 26.4% contribution to Ghana's GDP growth, as indicated in the 2025 mid-year budget. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to join me as I highlight the progress we have made in the first half of 2025. Our work in the past 6 months has been guided by a vision to realize a suitable, well-governed, and resilient fisheries and aquaculture sector driven by equity, innovation, and strategic investment, delivering food security, decent jobs, economic growth, resources and environmental stewardship, and contributing to the national blue economy agenda. Some of the things we have done in the past 6 months include: 1, passage of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill 2025 to achieve a meaningful reset of the fisheries sector in our national interest, and also to address issues of the infamous EU yellow card on Ghana's fisheries. The ministry worked very hard for the review of the Fisheries Law Act 625. I am pleased to announce to you the passage of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill 2025 by Parliament. This landmark legislation represents a transformative step toward a sustainable, equitable, and economically viable fisheries sector. The new act is a comprehensive legal framework aligned with international standards. It establishes an independent fisheries commission to oversee the management, conservation, development, and sustainable use of Ghana's fisheries and aquaculture resources. By strengthening the legal and regulatory framework, the bill enhances Ghana's global credibility, especially with key export partners such as the European Union. It addresses critical compliance gaps in licensing, reporting, and enforcement, helping to avoid trade restrictions or sanctions, including potential red card penalties if we do not work to lift the EU yellow card that has been placed on Ghana since it's been 5 years now. And we have set a small window to work to lift it. Otherwise, we get into a red card status, and that works negatively in the interest of Ghana fisheries. This safeguards over $425 million in annual seafood exports and secures jobs, incomes, and national revenue. Ladies and gentlemen, importantly, the legislation introduces stricter penalties and enforcement tools to curb illegal fishing, protect marine biodiversity, and rebuild overexploited fish stocks. It also places emphasis on ensuring the safety, security, and welfare of all personnel working aboard fishing vessels. In a major gain for coastal communities and Ghana's fisheries resources. The bill expands the inshore exclusive zone to 12 nautical miles or a 50-meter depth. This will protect critical breeding grounds and enhance the productivity and livelihoods of over the 2.7 million Ghanaians who depend on small-scale fishing. You may recall the European Commission identified Ghana as a non-cooperating third-party country in the fight against illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing in June 2021 and issued Ghana a yellow card in accordance with Article 32 of Council Regulation EC number 1005/2008. The issues raised by the European Commission included the expired Marine Fisheries Management Plan, transshipment at sea, inconsistencies in the existing fisheries legal framework, and deficiencies in the monitoring, control, and surveillance of fleet. The passage of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill is a major step in lifting the yellow card and in Ghana's fisheries reform agenda. The ministry commends Parliament for its bipartisan support and assure stakeholders of our full commitment to operationalizing the new law for the benefit of current and future generations. It is important to note that as part of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's program to reset Ghana, this particular bill was taken under a certificate of urgency from the presidency. 2. Ratification of the World Trade Organization Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies. On 9th June 2025, Ghana ratified the WTO Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies, a major step toward promoting sustainable fisheries and tackling illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. The agreement prohibits harmful subsidies that lead to overfishing and overcapacity, reinforcing Ghana's commitment to responsible fisheries governance. Once again, the ministry applauds Parliament for supporting this process for the ratification of the WTO Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies. Next, implementation of the 2025 closed season. Ladies and gentlemen, in line with our national fisheries strategy and global best practices, the ministry implemented a modified 2025 closed season to allow fish stocks to replenish as follows. Industrial trawlers. We observed a closed season from July to 31st August 2025, a 2-month period closed season for industrial trawlers. For semi-industrial inshore vessels, a closed season was observed from 1st to 31st July 2025, a 1-month closed season. For artisanal canoe fishers, they were exempted from the 2025 closure, but were still required to comply with all traditional and statutory regulations. Next, establishment of Ghana's first marine protected area. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture is advancing in the establishment of Ghana's first marine protected area at Cape 3 Points in the Ahanta West District in the Western Region, targeted for 2026. This initiative is part of a broader national conservation strategy and is based on scientific assessments and extensive stakeholder engagement. To ensure ecological and socioeconomic benefits, consultations have been held with traditional leaders, local fishers, civil society, academia, and development partners. And some civil society organizations have taken a strong lead in this process. Also, Ghana has formally joined RAMPAO. RAMPAO is a regional body promoting sustainable marine conservation in West Africa, enhancing our access to expertise, partnerships, and strategic support in managing the marine protected area. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past 6 months, the ministry has worked to strengthen a very important aspect of its work in fish health and biosecurity. Between January and June 2025, 32 fish disease mortality cases were investigated and managed. 19 officers were trained in live fish movement protocols. 56 smallholder farmers and officers were trained on biosecurity and climate change. 31 officers received advanced training in fish health. And a community outreach in Elembele district sensitized a number of stakeholders following an EUS outbreak. Next, aquaculture development. We all know, ladies and gentlemen, the capture fisheries in Ghana are declining due to overfishing, climate change, and IUU fishing. While aquaculture presents a viable alternative, it contributed only 17.5% to national fish production in 2024. Currently, as is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's big vision to expand the aquaculture program in Ghana, we in the ministry have prioritized aquaculture under the 24-hour economy and accelerated export development program with a focus on value chain investment from production to marketing. Fisheries enforcement measures. The ministry, through the Fisheries Commission, has intensified enforcement efforts. The ministry's enforcement efforts come under what we call the FEU, the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, which is led by Ghana Navy, Marine Police, and local community-based enforcement committees. We have done 265 quayside inspections out of a target of 159. We exceeded our target. A target of 175 for pre-departure inspections, we actually recorded 210. We have also done 24/7 electronic monitoring on all industrial vessels. We have developed a fisheries risk assessment dashboard, and we have suspended licenses of 4 trawlers for multiple regulatory violations. In fact, yesterday and today, the FEU led by Navy have enforced some measures in some of our key fishing ports. In fact, even this dawn, the operations have arrested people who have been dealing illegally in premix. Establishment of the Blue Economy Commission. In line with the government's manifesto commitment, Cabinet has approved the establishment of an interministerial and intersectoral technical team to develop Ghana's national blue economy strategy. The team, supervised by the Senior Presidential Advisor on Governmental Affairs, Dr. Valerie Sawyer, and hosted by the Ministry of Environment, has delivered on their task of developing the basis for a national blue economy strategy and recommended for the institutional and legal frameworks required for implementation. This initiative aims to create a unified and well-regulated framework for the sustainable development of Ghana's blue economy. It will ensure marine and aquatic resources are managed responsibly to deliver long-term economic growth, environmental sustainability, and social inclusion. The strategy will pave the way for the formal establishment of a Blue Economy Commission, or whatever the new institution will be called. That will be Ghana's central coordinating body for ocean governance, spanning fisheries, maritime transport, tourism, offshore energy, and marine conservation. Next, management of premixed fuel. The ministry is reconstituting landing beach committees nationwide to eliminate inactive and ineffective committees. The new committees will be formed through transparent, community-led processes to enhance local accountability according to the LI that establishes the National Premise Secretariat. At the start of 2025, only one bulk distribution company supplied premixed fuel. The ministry has now engaged 5 additional BDCs, resulting in the supply of 14.2 million liters between February and June 2025. This diversification strengthens supply reliability and eliminates bottlenecks. Premixed fuel is now delivered directly from Tema Oil Refinery to landing beaches, bypassing intermediaries. This reform ensures equitable access and reduces corruption and diversion. A comprehensive audit of all landing beach committees that existed between 2017 and 2024 is underway. Any financial wrongdoing will be prosecuted. Quarterly financial reporting and independent oversight mechanisms are being introduced to improve transparency. Out of 157 sites, only 31 of the premix automated centers were operational by the end of 2024. Between March and July 2025, the ministry, through working with the premix automation centers, have installed 28 additional tanks, commissioned 11 new stations, brought the total operational stations to 42. These stations include real-time monitoring systems, significantly enhancing transparency and delivering efficiencies. Ladies and gentlemen, operationalization of a fisheries college in Anomabo. Following a directive from the President, the ministry has received funding from Ministry of Finance to complete the fisheries college in Anomabo and operationalize it. Processes are underway for contractors to go back to site and work in accordance with the Public Procurement Act. Last but not the least, I'd like to share with you our outlook for the second half of 2025. Looking ahead, the ministry's focus remains steadfast on building a sustainable, inclusive, and competitive fisheries sector. We will fully implement the new Fisheries Act, beginning with stakeholder sensitization and the operationalization of the new Fisheries Commission. Regulatory frameworks and implementation guidelines will be completed by the end of this year. Work is well underway, as I intimated earlier on Ghana's first blue economy strategy, coordinated by an interministerial team endorsed by Cabinet. This will provide a clear institutional and investment framework for sustainable ocean-based growth. We will scale up aquaculture interventions by launching targeted support for women and youth entrepreneurs and expanding infrastructure for hatcheries and feed production. This will reduce import dependency and create jobs. In premix management, our goal is to activate all the automated stations where tanks have been installed. We will also work to complete all the 300 stations that were supposed to have been installed under the agreement. Real-time tracking and digital accountability will remain central to delivery processes. We are also working to enhance enforcement capacity through full EMS coverage of all industrial trawl vessels and strengthen partnerships with traditional authorities to enforce community fishing bylaws. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we are on a transformational journey, a journey to reset, one that demands innovation, discipline, and collaboration. The results we have shared today reflect not just the work of government, but also the contributions of fisher folks, community leaders, civil society, our technical officers who are looking right at me now, and our international partners. Together, we will weather the winds, grow stronger, and secure a prosperous and sustainable future for Ghana's fisheries and aquaculture sector. As a ministry, we remain committed to protecting our marine and inland resources, boosting domestic fish production, promoting inclusivity, and securing the livelihoods of our fishing communities. Thank you for your attention and continued support. Wajima bro.
Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power.